welcome and thank you so much for coming here today and taking the time to learn more about digital equity and to learn more about our projects. I'm going to talk about how we can shape digital inclusion measures to reach digital equity, considering and taking into account vulnerabilities of people, available resources they have, and access to opportunities. My name is Juliane Stiller, and I'm from Grenzenlos Digital, which would translate to something like borderless digital. And now it works. So I'm an information scientist, and I have a doctoral degree in information science from Humboldt University in Berlin. And for a decade, I worked as a researcher in the area of information retrieval, digital cultural heritage, and metadata quality. And I've done that at several research institutions. In 2019, I left academia and co-founded together with other information scientists the nonprofit Grenzenlos Digital. And now I'm chair of the board of this nonprofit organization. And here I do research in the area of digital inclusion, evaluation, and disinformation. And here today with me is also my colleague, Violetta Truculia, and she might be able to give you some, answer some questions in the chat or give you some links if you need some of the links. And yeah, Grenzenlos Digital is a non-profit organization based in Berlin. And we want to promote digitization and digital skills in society. And we do this by offering research in the field of digitization, and we do workshops as well as training with regard to digital skills and digital competencies. And we do this mainly for vulnerable groups. And our third strand we focus on is digital equity. And we are doing this mainly with regard to promoting digital equity between men and women. But before I delve deeper into the topic, I would like to know more about you. And I prepared some questions so that you do not have to answer while we are recording, so you can answer the questions from the chat, and not from the chat, from the quiz I'm just going to open. Just bear with me a minute. So you will see, I hope it will pop up on your screen. You will see now 3 questions. You can answer, and it's totally anonymous. I won't know who answered what. And I would like to know, how are you feeling today? So on a sheep scale, and you can see the different sheeps here on the slide. How do you feel today? So we have one sheep that is happy. That is the first sheep with its tongue sticking out. We have a smiling sheep enjoying the day, a sheep with bad hair and hair over its eyes. And we have a sheep with a bucket over its head. Sheep number 5 is the sleepy sheep, and sheep number 6 is a curious sheep with flowers around its neck. And then I would like to know, in which role did you come to this webinar or to this workshop today? Are you an educator or policymaker? Do you think you're more on the research side, or are you working in a nonprofit or NGO? Are you an administrator, or would you say my role is something totally different from these 5 options? And then I'm interested in what are in the key challenges, or your opinion on the key challenges in achieving digital equity. And please feel free to choose all that applies here. I can see that 5 people have answered so far, and I think we are like around 13. So if a couple more people make their choices, I will give it 30 more seconds for you to submit your choice, and then I will end this quiz or this survey. Okay, 92% have answered, 12 out of 13. So I'm going to, oh, everyone has answered. Great, thank you very much. So I'm going to end the survey now, and you will now see also the results of the survey. So we can see that most of you have a good day, I think. So 31% said they have a good day, they feel like sheep number 2, but we also have a couple of people who feel like sheep number 4. Yeah, I hope the day turns out to become better for you towards the end. And regarding the second question, we have a lot of researchers here. 50% of you identify as researchers. 33% are working in a non-profit. We have a policymaker and administrator here. No one in the educational area. That's interesting too. And with regards what you identify as key challenges in achieving digital equity, most of you answered digital literacy skills. That is great, because the use case I'm going to talk about is about digital literacy skills. Then we have socioeconomic factors, cultural and language barriers, policy and regulation issues. Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for taking part. And I'm going to close this now, and we will dive into the presentation. If you still see for some reason the quiz or the survey, you can just, click the X so it will go away from your screen. Okay, what are we doing today? So I want to talk today about digital equity and how we can reach digital equity. I would like to talk about more about the narrative of the digital divide and how digital inclusion measures can help us to bridge this digital divide. And then I will talk about the use case. So digital literacy course we conducted over the past year in Grenzenlos Digital, which goal was to promote digital skills. And at the end, there will be hopefully some time to discuss your experiences with digital inclusion measures and digital equity. So let's dive into digital equity. The National Digital Inclusion Alliance says that digital equity is a condition in which all individuals and communities have the information technology capacity needed for full participation in our society, democracy, and economy. Digital equity is necessary for civic and cultural participation, employment, lifelong learning, and access to essential skills. And this alliance, this National Digital Inclusion Alliance, they're based in the US. They also have a nice summary on the website I would like to share with you. And so in their view, and I think I share this view as well, so digital equity is the goal. This is what we want to reach. And the problem is that there's a digital divide, and we need digital inclusion measures or digital inclusion initiatives to bridge this divide to then reach digital equity. We now talk about the digital divide, then we can say that we have this narrative about it. So I asked DALL-E to give me a picture of the digital divide in a graphical way, and it came up with this. So we see here we have two groups of people, and they are divided by a big gap, which might be lethal if you try to cross. On the one hand, you have people with access to digital technologies. They have cameras, they have laptops, they have iPads. On the other hand, you have people who are reading in books and who are doing more analog stuff. And we are using this picture or this narrative or this mental image of the digital divide since over 25 years now. And it started with this first level of digital divide, where we said, or where the research said, okay, there is a digital divide, and the digital divide, if we think of two persons like Faria who's 29, and Dunya, who's 23, then Faria has access to all the technology and Wi-Fi, for example. So she has access to the iPad, she has access to several digital devices, and she has access to the internet, whereas the other person has no access to it. So this is considered the first level digital divide. On the second level digital divide, people then realized, okay, it's not enough to only have access, you also need to do something with the technology. So you need to be able to use apps. And here, in this example again, we would have Faria, who uses apps for mobility and shopping. She can use the internet to learn. She can use it to delve into new topics. Whereas Dunya, on the other hand, does not know how to find reliable information in the internet. She does not use apps. So again, we have kind of this binary gap between digital skills. People who have it, people who do not have it. And the third level divide, this is about the outcomes someone has from having the skills and the access and having the skills to use the technology. So here again, we have Faria, and she benefits from cheaper options because she can actually compare prices in the internet, or she can participate in society. She can use e-government services, so she's saving time. And then we have Dunya, and she does not benefit from digitization in her work life at all, for example. She gets more and more punished for not being digital. So this is also related to higher costs. So if I think of Germany, we now have some countries where if you use the public transport and you do not have an app and you want to buy a public transport ticket via the ticket machine, it's more expensive than using the app. And actually, it was also the same in London. So this is what I kind of mean with the punishment for being not digital. If we sum up these three levels, then the first one is the difference in access in technology and these devices. Different devices have different opportunities. We have, on the second level, the difference in digital skills, uses, and motivations that shape the experiences of the people. And then we have the differences in offline outcome. That means, how do your skills translate into favorable offline outcomes? And this is one way to see digital inequalities. The other way or the other perspectives is to look at groups of people and what digital inequalities do they face. In this paper from Perez Escola and Canet, they looked at interventions for digitally excluded groups in academia and in research. And they just looked at how many interventions were done for certain groups. And they found that most interventions were done for older people, then people with disabilities, poor communities, low-income families, homeless, women, indigenous people, ethnic minorities, teenagers, and children. And all these groups, they might have to deal with one or more sources of vulnerability. And these sources of vulnerability, also coming from this paper, are gender, geographic location, race, personal limitations, and age. And of course, these sources of vulnerabilities are also affecting other factors, such as your education, your income, your health. And all this has also to do with how you can walk through the digital realm. In this report, that tries to bring these factors and these types of digital divides together. And through the literature review, the authors summarized the factors that most affected each type of the digital divide. So, for example, the access to internet connection. The factor which is most influential for this is where you live. So are you living in a rural or an urban area? Your income, your age, or education. And the type of outcome, what I said before, so how can you how can you profit in your offline world from your digital skills and your access. This is mostly determined by your income, your age, your education level, your gender and disability. Another or a different view on all this was presented by Robinson et al. And they wrote like two anniversary papers for the digital divide, which are actually really good, and I like them a lot. So in this, they say, okay, let's talk about the digital inequality stack, or a digital inequality stack is like a metaphor we can work better to understand digital inequalities. And the metaphor is actually derived from the computer stack, where you also have different layers in how to build a computer and software, and all these different layers need to interact well with each other to completely work. And if we take this now and apply it to the digital inequalities, then we can also say we have layers such as the access, the usage and the consumption, skills and literacy, and production and programming. If I'm now on the basic layer and I look at access, then with regard to access, I can look at access to connectivity, access to devices, access to software. And there's also another perspective to access the collective access to a networked infrastructure, or the individual access to devices. And all these layers are somehow influenced, or all these layers are influenced by, they call them legacy inequalities. So inequalities which have already existed even before the internet, but now through the internet or through the digital realm, they are getting aggravated. So for example, education, inequalities in education or different economic classes now disrupt these different layers of this stack, and they have different effects on all these layers. And of course, as one of these layers is disrupted, for example, your access, you do not have access, then it kind of disrupts the whole stack. And they are also talking about these emerging inequalities. These are inequalities which are actually coming through our digital development. So this would be something like the decrease of individual agency. So we are pretty helpless in designing our own network experiences in the internet. So we are dependent on big technology creators, and they know how all this works, but we have very little insight into this. And this will also increase the inequality. Okay, this was now kind of a big overview or meta overview of digital inequality and what you could consider with regards to this. When we now break this down a bit more to what can we now actually do, then also other people thought about it, right? And there's a lot in the literature of actual measures you can do. And people were asked in this report, what do they see as the reasons for the digital divide? And they said the most important reason is the same as the results from the survey I did here, is the lack of digital skills. Then we have the affordability of access, the lack of equipment, poor internet connection in rural areas, and so on. If we now want to bridge the digital divide in these areas, then we can say, okay, let's just do some measures for digital inclusion that tackle these things so we can reach digital equity. And if we try this, we could say, okay, if there's a lack of digital skills, we promote digital skills. If there's no equipment, we give people equipment. If they cannot access something for some reasons, then we have to make sure they can access that, or provide the means that they can access that. So with all these measures, we want to reach digital equity. And these digital inclusion measures, it is also very important to understand that within these measures, we also have to think about digital inclusion. But first of all, let me give you a definition of digital inclusion. The UN says in one of its reports about digital inclusion, it is equitable, meaningful, and safe access to use, lead, and design of digital technologies, services, and associated opportunities for everyone, everywhere. And this, of course, applies also to our different areas of life. So a digital inclusion measure in the work area might be totally different than in the health area. So we have to take this into account. And our organization is mainly working in the area of education. So we try to bridge the digital divide through promoting digital skills and digital competencies. And for digital inclusion in education, you might have the goal, okay, if I promote digital skills to get more digital equity, I also have to think about how do I promote these digital skills. And this is what our project was also about. And digital inclusion in education requires the minimizing of digital inequalities, thereby widening access and also enhancing the quality of teaching and learning with the intent to provide education that is fair and equitable. And how we tried to give this definition some justice in our own projects, I'm going to talk about now. So this is the use case for promoting digital skills. And here I would like to present our project intro, which means something like internet research and communication, just in German, but roughly that's the translation. And here the goal was to teach basic digital skills for job market orientation. It is a time and location independent course, which took place completely digitally, and it mixed synchronous with asynchronous learning, and our target group were refugees and people with migration background. So, so far we have conducted 3 courses and trained 51 people. We have a really high retention rate, so 85% of the people who onboarded actually stayed with the course and successfully finished it. And 62% of the training group, or the people we trained, were women. And now I'm going to talk about how we designed this course and how we try to look and try to take into account digital equity through the whole design of the course. So how can we design digital literacy training through a digital equity lens? And for this, we use the analogy of a house. So building your digital literacy training or your digital inclusion measure, thinking about it like you would think about how to build a house, right? At the foundation, you have you identify what characterizes your target group, what are the digital inequalities of your target group. Then the pillars are the definitions. So what are you going to teach? How do you define it? How is it applicable to the life of the people you are teaching? How do you evaluate what you are teaching? What are the motivations for the people to participate? And all this is covered by the roof. So the settings. So what are your teaching modalities? But let's start at the base, the target group. So if you think of the target group for any digital literacy intervention or digital inclusion measure, then you have to think about the level of digital competency people have, their level of operational skills on different devices. That is also very important. Just because someone can use a phone does not mean they can use a laptop. Experience with different digital devices, experiences with digital learning offers, language skills. Do people have access to devices and Wi-Fi? How are their life circumstances? And if we now look at this through the digital equity lens, then we need to understand the barriers and inequalities and available resources of our target group to design these interventions properly. In our case, our target group was very heterogeneous, right? We often talk about refugees, but the only thing they have in common is that they came from, or they fled a country, right? And that's all. So they have different language levels, education backgrounds, and countries of origins and languages spoken, varying degrees of familiarity with media, and often high internet and smartphone affinity has nothing to do with a high computer competency. When we now go back to the roof of our house and look at the setting, how we try to accommodate what we learned about our target group, then we've done this by recording presentations and screencasts explaining all the digital tools, such as the emails. Then we gave them tasks to repeat lesson materials, quizzes, and everything in simple language. We offered digital live sessions. So although the course was totally digitally, there was a fixed time when people could come and see a trainer, and the trainer would go through the material. These were 2 live sessions per week, 2 Q&A live sessions per week, and one-on-one physical onboarding or virtual onboarding we offered. We also had extensive support with Q&A sessions, additional online sessions for problems, and support via WhatsApp, phone, and email. And again, looking at this through the digital equity lens, then these flexible learning opportunities is actually what our target group needed, because they are tight, their schedules are very tight with very, very many appointments they have to take, language courses they have to take, taking care of their asylum processes and stuff like this. So being flexible with this learning was very, very crucial. If we now quickly talk about the pillars, then what did we teach the people in the course? So we used the DICOM 2.2 digital competency framework for citizens, and took the first 2 domains of the digital skills, which were part of our curriculum, namely the information and data literacy and communication and collaboration. And all of the digital skills people needed to learn within these 2 areas were actually applied to the job market. And this is very important to give the people an application area for where they can apply the skills or the digital skills they learn. So for example, the skills they are learning, job search and how to use job search engines, how to write emails to potential employers, how to organize resources around your applications, then knowledge about the German labor market and how you can find information about the labor market, and then also some attitudes like openness, curiosity, and motivation were playing a role here. If we look at this again through the digital equity lens, then we need to be aware that these skills are very device, motivation, and domain specific. So you always have to ask yourself, why should people learn these digital skills? They might not need them, right? Or they might not think they need them. So what makes it worthwhile for them to participate in such a course? Then motivation, this is the motivation specificity. Then the device specificity. And the domain, that they are very domain specific. Then moving on, how to evaluate your training. So this is the second pillar, right? So you can evaluate your training regarding the student's progress and then the impact of your training. How do you reach the goals of the project you were designing? And the student's progress, that's the point I want to focus on more here, is you can do this via self-assessment, testing knowledge, or task-based testing. And on the other hand, the impact of the training could be satisfactory surveys, churn rate, retention rate, all these measures, but also recommendations from alumni from your course. Again, if we look at it through the digital equity lens, then it is very good to have clear learning expectations, then have the possibility to adapt the assessments based on the students' feedback and how they are receiving it, and give assessments also based on individual learning. That was also very important because our group was so heterogeneous. Some tasks did not fit everyone, so we could not work with a one-size-fits-all thing. We sometimes had to adapt the assessments to individuals. And the last point are the motivations. So first of all, you have the motivations regarding that someone takes up the digital skills training. And this, of course, has to do if, are they learning there's something they can use and apply to their everyday life. And for us, or for our group, that was really they use the digital skills then to find a job and to apply. So that was more important than the digital skills themselves. So we attach the digital skills towards goals students wanted to attain, and we try to highlight the relevance for the everyday life. And when they onboarded and when they were doing the course, then we try to provide them with a transparent learning process, support and communication throughout the time, and also thought about internal and external motivators. These external motivators would be something to celebrate the success through motivation, through badges, through certificates they could reach, but also life hacks which created kind of aha moments. So people are always very fond of keyboard shortcuts and learning more and being more efficient with the laptop, and they really, really like that, just as an example. Then the application area, so combining digital skills with this job search was very important. And we also try to create a sense of belonging, although being in a digital realm. So communication via various channels, many face-to-face meetings, and live sessions. So, and here, it is very important to identify barriers that might demotivate people to not come to the course or do not be able to take it further. And then I'm coming to the takeaways from all of this. So, as I said before, if we want to reach digital equity, we have to implement some digital inclusion measures. So we have to do something to bridge this digital divide. But we also have to ask ourselves, how can we design these digital inclusion measures already with digital equity in mind? And how can they be designed to tackle inequalities? And of course, you need to be aware of all the inequalities which might occur and how they manifest. Yeah? And the digital inequalities are something, as I said before, like income, age, education level, and many more that might influence this. And all these legacy and emerging inequalities have an impact on the digital resources a person or a group of people have. And these digital resources have an impact of what kind of opportunities someone can make use of. Yeah? And these opportunities can also be individually or be more on a societal level. So just quickly to delve into the digital resources, the access to technology, right, is one very important thing, as well as the skills and the usage. In terms of access to devices, you could ask yourself, does my target group has a mobile data plan? Do they have high-speed broadband connection? Do they have to share their laptops and devices with other people in their family? Do they have a personal computer, a tablet, and stuff like that? And with regards to skills and usage, then also all what I said before applies, right? Skills and usage is a big field, but just do they Can they use, for example, office software? What is their digital skills level? Are the digital skills dependent on the devices they use? Can they use, or are they using health monitoring apps and such? And all this will determine how well can they take part in digital opportunities. So, for example, e-government services, remote employment, e-health, mobility, virtual museum tours, health monitoring apps and wearables, streaming services. And all these opportunities, of course, they must be there, right? If there are no digital opportunities, then someone cannot take them. So this has, on the one hand, this individual perspective, but also the perspective of these opportunities being available. Yeah, and that is the end of my talk. I saw the chat going a lot here. Thanks for that. Yes, I'm open to questions now, and I would like to hear your perspectives. Maybe if you would like to discuss with me, I would be interested in digital inclusion measures and initiatives you have carried out, and the aspects of digital inequalities you have taken into account there. What have you worked for you? What did not work for you?